he was covering the Open and the Italian Francesco Molinari as he wins what was a very, I guess, a conservative way of winning it,
Sure.
but consistent. When you don't bogey 36 holes, that is remarkable. I am looking for John McCarthy.
Here I am, guys.
John, thanks so much for joining me. It's Raw Mike Richards on rawmikeRichards.com. We're going live here. We appreciate you joining us here this morning. And, I think of all the people that, we talk about all the golf pools, John, that people go in. There's all kinds of names came up, including John Rahm seemed to be like kind of a favorite. Spieth would have been in there. I'm sure Dustin Johnson, who didn't make the cut. But Francesco Molinari, he gets it done. And I think for a performance that just says, if you're playing Carnoustie, maybe being just consistent and maybe that gets the job done, because it's not an easy golf course. And I think a lot of people kind of happy for this guy, John.
No, I think you're right. And I think as far as the golf pools or fantasies, it's sort of the kind of guy that was checking the stats and looking up the past weeks would be the guy that might have stuck Molinari in his group, because he has 3 wins and 2 second places in his last 6 starts worldwide. So he was the hottest golfer in the world, but he was just still flying under the radar because everybody wants to talk about the Tigers and the Rorys and the Spieths. But he's always been a fantastic ball striker, which people would recognize him from Ryder Cups, where he's a tough guy to play because he keeps putting it in the fairway, But the putter has always been his nemesis, and he's obviously figured that out. But around the British Open courses, you're right, it might be more of a plotter's kind of course.
Well, you mentioned, the Ryder Cup. Very often, like when we see these kinds of tournaments, I tend to like a lot of Europeans just because of the way that they've grown up playing that game. It's not that they probably don't live in North America. It's just culturally and that's why I think sometimes the U.S. has such a difficult time, especially when they go over. It's the Ryder Cup is very exciting. It's like a rock concert, and the true rock stars tend to be the Europeans. Now, that being said, I know there was a lot of noise made about Tiger Woods, and I'll be interested to hear your opinion. But, I think it's exciting when that happens, when he's actually in the running and at one point in the lead. But I still have a hard time. You mentioned ball striking from Molinari. There's just so many good golfers in the top, let's say, 20, 25, maybe even 30, that the chances of Tiger winning another major, for me, I don't see it happening. What do you think?
Well, I think people can look at yesterday and they can take it either way. I think more people are going to say his game looks ready. Like, you can't play. It's Tiger Woods. He's playing that well. He's going to get chances and he's going to win one, because he is hitting. He's still hitting shots that, frankly, other people aren't hitting or can't hit. Like, he had that fairway bunker on 10, where I think he had a pitching wedge 150 yards, but it had to go 150 yards straight up before it landed. And that was sort of that vintage moonshot of Tiger's. But in this instance, he had about 15, 20 feet to convert that birdie, and he missed that. And that was sort of where it turned, because then he doubled 11, he bogeyed 12. So I think that was the moment. He hit the Tiger shot, and if he had converted that birdie, then maybe, everything starts clicking again. But it is a bit amazing that the final part of this puzzle of his comeback seems to be his ability to put it away, and it's almost like the mental side of winning, which, of all the different things that have gone wrong with his back and his private life and his swing, to think that the thing that he can't seem to put together is the ability to put away a tournament when he seems to be running good it's almost unbelievable to think, because that was the given for 15 years. It was the automatic part was that he'll put it away when he's in position. So you can look at it and say his game's right there, or you can look at it and say, well, he was right there and he couldn't put it away, which might, come back next time he's in that position. I'm sure he's going to be thinking about it.
Yeah, he certainly will. And John, great talking to you this morning. Thanks for joining us. It's funny you said that, because that was kind of my next point. It's almost like as golf watchers and people that have covered the game, if you see Tiger Woods put on the red shirt on a Sunday, it's almost like you've caught Superman in some sort of phone booth, because you think, okay, I know how this story ends, but we just haven't seen it. And yesterday was just another example, as you brought up, that maybe that part of his game just isn't there. And I'm not sure what it's going to take to get to the next level. I don't know if he has another major in him. I think he has another tournament win in him somewhere down the line, if it's a Honda Classic, a Buick Open, or whatever the hell he's going to be golfing in the next couple of years. But man, it's a different side of Tiger, where maybe, looking at him in the red shirt doesn't instantly mean, oh, this is a W, isn't it?
No, and actually the best news for Tiger out of this weekend was his his good finish has put him to number 50 in the world ranking. So in 2 weeks, they play the World Golf Championship at Firestone, and he's owned that tournament more than he's owned any tournament in his whole career. He's won it 8 times at that golf course, and he had to be in the top 50 in the world ranking to qualify. So he got it on the number. He's number 50. So in 2 weeks, we'll see him at Firestone, actually where the tournament is playing for the final time. It's going to move to a different golf course. So this is the last chance to play this golf course where he's won 8 times. So if you've got any bad feelings from this week, he's got his most comfortable golf course in 2 weeks to try and shake it off and put the pedal down. So it will be interesting. But I was thinking of it. You got a 42-year-old Tiger Woods, and I'm thinking of it like any suburban guy out here. You say you fix your lawnmower's been broken. You spend all winter fixing it. Then you get it outside, and maybe the neighbors are walking around, and you pull on that starter, and it just doesn't start. And now you're ripping on that starter, and it doesn't start. So then now he's putting it back in the garage for a couple weeks, or maybe to the PGA Championship, and it's the next big opportunity. But then he's got to bring that new lawnmower back out with the neighbors watching, and he's not gonna feel quite as confident when he's reaching for that starter. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out, though.
We've all done that.
We're in conversation with John McCarthy from the Toronto Sun, associate managing editor and golf writer. We're talking about the Open. We did see, once again, a chance perhaps for Jordan Spieth to win back-to-back. I mean, he certainly has the talent for that. But I always find it strange, John, whenever that name comes up, and I don't feel this way, but some people really do, they don't like him. There's immediate, like, oh, God, Spieth. What a dick. I'm like, why? What did he do? Did he break into your house? Did he ruin your favorite hockey jersey? Like, do you get that sense of for some reason that there's something that's disliked about Jordan Spieth? Because I honestly, deep down, I don't feel it.
I mean, I like the guy. I think it's sometimes when people are too perfect. I mean, when you have the blonde hair, the all-American look, and you've won 3 majors at 24, I think there's a bit of, I don't know if it's just jealousy, but somebody seems too perfect. And in his first couple of years, there was a lot of canned answers. You could tell as a teenager in junior golf where he won, everything. I think he was coached to, never say the wrong thing, always thank everybody around you. And he's example one of the kind of player that says, oh, we need to have a good round today. We meaning him and his caddy and his team. When we all sort of know it's only you out there. It's a one-man sport, but I think they use that word we, and that kind of maybe might rub some people the wrong way. But in the past couple of years, I actually think his personality has come out. I remember he said he threw out the first pitch after he won the U.S. Open, I think in 2015 at a Red Sox game, and he threw it out left-handed. And nobody knew he was left-handed. And so at the next golf tournament, somebody said, well, you're left-handed. Why didn't you play golf left-handed? And he said, well, I want to give everybody else a chance too, which was
there we go.
But that's when I started actually enjoying that we weren't getting the canned answers. So, I'm not sure why people don't like him. One thing I do know is if you're a fan of his, he might be the only guy harder to root for as a fan, gets you more nervous than, say, a Tiger on his comeback, because he always seems to be playing on the edge of catastrophe. It's either he's talking to his ball right from the first hole, he's talking to himself, he's talking to his caddy, his ball's in, some bush 60 yards off the fairway. So it must be very difficult to be a fan of his, because he always looks like, and he always does go one way or the other. But he's had the 54-hole lead in a major 6 times, and he's 24 years old. So that is just unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, final question from me, John. Canadian Open is next on the docket, so they're going to be in our backyard. What should we expect, and what are you hoping to see come Thursday when the golfers are live in front of us?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised with the final field was announced over the weekend, and it's one of the best fields of a regular PGA Tour event, not a major, not a WGC. But we've got the world number 1, Dustin Johnson. We got the U.S. Open champion Brooks Koepka. We got Bubba Watson, Sergio Garcia, Tommy Fleetwood, who's a lot of people are enjoying to watch nowadays. Tony Finau, Kevin Kisner, who everybody saw on the weekend. I thought he was an interesting story. He was just making bombs all weekend, and you kept saying, or all week, this can't keep up all week, and it almost did. But I think a good backstory on him is 2 years ago, he was suspended from his home course for drinking beer and racing golf carts. So if you can't cheer for that guy, I don't know who you can.
That's what golf courses are for. Come on,
yeah,
that's what you do. I worked at a golf course. That was every night. We did that. Are you kidding me?
And on the Canadian side, I mean, Adam Hadwin is the best Canadian going right now. I think he's in his sweet spot. Last couple years, probably 2 or 3 more going forward. He's right in his prime. He grew up as a fantastic ball striker. His short game and putting was always his downfall, but then he worked so hard on it that when he finally sort of had his moment on the PGA Tour, he was known around tour as this great putter, Adam Hadwin. But in reality, it was the other way around. He was a great ball striker who added the putting to his game. So now that he's put it all together, I think he's the guy. If you're looking for a Canadian to win this thing that could do it, it would be Adam Hadwin. As a guy that you might not know, Adam Svensson is on the Web.com tour. He's going to be on the PGA Tour next year. He's in the top 5 on the Web.com tour. He's the most decorated junior golfer in Canadian history. He won an incredible amount of junior tournaments, like something like 500 or some unbelievable number. But he's the most decorated by far junior golfer that's ever come up. His name's Adam Svensson. He'll be there. The course might be a little softer than they'd hoped for with the rain we're looking to get before the tournament, but it should be a fun week.
Speaking of a Stenson, Henrik Stenson, when I see him out there in the different tournaments, when I see, his physique, like his size, how he strikes the ball, all those different tools, his understanding of the game, sort of poise, I'm surprised he doesn't win more often. He just seems like he doesn't win as much as, if I'm just looking at it as a sort of third-party observer looking on down, I'm saying, okay, well, this guy's probably going to win a bunch. And he hasn't. It's not that he doesn't win, but he probably doesn't win as much as I thought he can.
No, you're right. And I think he's given himself a bit of a shorter window than other super top players because early in his career, he actually had the driver yips, which is it's almost the rarest kind of yips. We all have heard of the putting yips. We've seen a bit of the chipping yips, and some people said Tiger had it for a bit, and Dillette had struggled a bit. But the driver yips are a whole different beast. I mean, you pull that big club back, and you don't know where it's going to go. So whenever you see, they always talk about his great 3-wood and how it's the greatest 3-wood anybody on tour has. But he has that 3-wood because he went through a period of time with the driver yips. So he does have everything, and he's a great U.S. Open type player. I mean, hits that 3-wood on the fairway, maybe the best iron player there is. So he's got it all, but again, he's a little older than people have probably thought because he might have given himself a bit of a shorter window for his prime.
John, great job here today. Just a thrill having you on the show. You did a wonderful job, and hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with you again because that was a lot of fun today.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Thanks.
That is John McCarthy, Associate Managing Editor and golf writer for Toronto Sun and Sun Media.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep.